Hello from London. This is my very first time being in London. I've been here for about 3 days and it has been an interesting journey. I could not wait to get here. I've wanted to come to London for a really long time, probably 20 years. And wanted to also go to the South by Southwest conference, which is actually the reason that I am here. And so it's interesting because did you ever have a place that you felt called to go, but you didn't know why, and you really wanted to go there, and you just would not give yourself permission to go? I will say that this trip is probably a little bit of giving myself a permission slip and a little bit of fulfilling a dream. Because I'm here for a conference, this, is a legitimate business expense, which makes it even sweeter. And I'm excited to be here. Conference hasn't started yet. It's very early. I've been up for about 4 to 5 hours. I'm having a little bit of an issue adjusting to the time, the 9-hour difference in time, which has been interesting to say the least, but I am enjoying good coffee and really good food, which is something that I appreciate because the food in America is not always the cleanest, as you know, if you live there. So it's been actually kind of refreshing. But yesterday, my body just needed some rest. And again, I gave myself permission to rest, even though there were a lot of sessions that I wanted to take. There was, in particular, a session that Michelle Obama was going to be leading, and I really wanted to attend that. But I had to listen to my body. After last year and being diagnosed with cervical cancer and just going through the whirlwind of procedures and surgeries, I can say that even though my last surgery was in October of 2025 and it is now June of 2026, my body is still recuperating, and recovery takes a long, long time. So when you think about, just kind of going back to what I was saying and just, ever feeling really called to go somewhere, there's just so many things that are going through my mind. Travel is such a great method. There's another word that I'm thinking of, but just can't think of it right now. But there's something about travel and putting yourself in positions that are a little bit uncomfortable. It takes a lot of courage. This is honestly my first trip traveling abroad by myself. My best friend is going to join me tomorrow, but I probably won't see her until later in the day. And I've been navigating the city by myself. I've been entertaining myself. I've been meeting people, and it's a lot. It's a lot of energy. It's especially for someone that lives at home and has been single for 10 years now. It's definitely different and it's exhausting in some ways, but it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there. And I would be lying if I didn't say I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, because there is a part of me that, the South by Southwest conference, there's movie stars and producers and musicians and just, tech moguls and all of these people who are a little bit intimidating, if I'm going to be honest. But I have to remind myself that I deserve to be here. And even though there's a part of me that used this, conference as a method, if you will, a launch pad to get me here, I'm really glad that I am here. And it was interesting because the other day I connected with somebody through the South by Southwest, as a lot of big conferences have apps now. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And on the app, you can connect with people prior to the conference, which I did. And there was one person in particular that we connected, and I was really interested, and I'm really interested in the work that she's doing. And I saw that she was from LA and I live in Southern California. So I was like, amazing. There's going to be Americans there, and I'm not going to be, because it was definitely intimidating coming here. Even though I make things look easy, I'm still human. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, because this really is my first trip abroad where my life looks completely different from the last time I was in, even Europe. And I've been thinking about that a lot. I'm not the same person. I When I went to Paris and Italy in the past for business retreats, I was married. My kids were still at home. My life just was so, so different. I was not supporting myself. I hadn't really ever been single, let's be honest. I met my ex-husband when I was 13 years old, so I was still a child when I met him. And it's just interesting because being here now, there's the part of me that just wants to curl up in a ball and stay in my room. And I did do that yesterday, and partially because I was just so exhausted, so overstimulated, and I think the time change and everything was just everything just kind of hit me yesterday. So even though I really wanted to go to conference and I wanted to spend more time with this woman that I connected with, because she had invited me to her sessions in the morning, and I just couldn't do it. I needed to give myself another permission slip to stay in bed. And there was a part of me that was just like, you're in London. Why are you staying in your hotel room? Get out there, go do things. And I'm getting notifications all day long of these amazing sessions that I signed up for that I really wanted to take. But there is this higher self, my spirit saying, just relax. And it's hard to do that. We, especially women, we're so used to taking care of other people. We're so used to go, go, go. And I'm just coming to this point in my life where I don't want to do that anymore. I can do that. I know that I can do that. I can hustle. I can work hard. I can do all the things. I can be brave, and I can be the adult in the room. I can be responsible. But sometimes I just want to be. I needed to lay in bed yesterday, and I finished the new release of Four Seasons and another show on Netflix, and I just allowed myself to be in bed. I listened to my book for a while. I did go out to get some food, and I also had food delivered. If anybody knows me, they know that I am really known for food delivery, just because I love cooking, but I don't enjoy cooking for myself, and I've just learned to come at peace with this. So all that to say is I'm glad that I'm here, and I definitely used the South by Southwest conference as a catapult, if you will, to get me here. Because while I am really interested in learning how, people in Europe and the UK are utilizing AI in business, because that is something that genuinely interests me, I just needed a change of scenery. After everything that I've been through the last 7 years in particular, and last year dealing with cancer and just all the things that come up from that, it really makes a person have a different perspective. And I am so grateful that the cancer was caught, it was found, it was removed, it didn't spread any further. And I mean, it really could have been so much worse than it was. And I'm grateful to be on the other side of that. My body is still adjusting, and, my body's still healing. And at the end of the day, it's just, I kind of feel like this is what life is just the more you know, the more you can heal, the more that you understand. And I've always believed this, that yes, knowledge is power, but with knowledge comes responsibility. And when you know better, you do better. And now I know better. I know that life is short, and I know that bad things can happen and scary things do happen. And we can show up and we can do those things. And whether we need to give ourselves a permission slip, like a conference or whatever it may be, give yourself permission. When was the last time you gave yourself permission to just be? When was the last time you gave yourself permission to do the thing that you've wanted to do for so long, but were afraid? Or you talked yourself out of it. I can't tell you how many times I've talked myself out of it. And really, I am a single woman. I have the means to travel. So why don't I travel? And I know, and again, this is just kind of going to my astrology, but my Libra moon is, I really do desire partnership, whether that's with, a romantic partnership with a man or just partnership with friends and having other people to go do things with. It's just so much more fulfilling for me. And that is the thing that has stopped me. And so I'm really proud of myself for being here and for walking all over East London. And if those of you that don't know, the South by Southwest conference is just an amazing conference. And it's not a traditional conference where you go to like a conference center and there's just little rooms in the conference center. This conference is literally spread out all over East London. So one of the sessions I walked was 20 minutes away, and then they're just like spread out all over in these different buildings that they kind of take over. And they've got sessions in there, they've got conference, they've got, screenings of movies and all sorts of really fun stuff. And there is a part of me that would love to do some of the things in the evening, but I'm just not quite that brave yet because I feel like as a single woman in a new city, in a new country, I just don't want to be out at night by myself. So, and that's just one of the things that I personally live with. And maybe if you're a woman, you also live with that. But, we all have boundaries. And so during the day, I'm out, I'm doing things, I'm talking to people, I'm connecting, and it feels really good. And at the end of the day, I'm proud of myself because I did it. So I'll leave you with, this question. When was the last time you were proud of yourself? What was it that you did? And how did you celebrate that win? I'm proud of myself for being here. And even though AI was my permission slip to come here, and I really do have a philosophy that I've spent so much of my life being the only person that really shows up in a relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, sometimes a friendship, work relationship. Again, I can do the hard things. I can do the work. I'm going to show up. And the more I've done that, the more that I've actually learned to bet on myself because I know that I'm a sure thing. I know that I'm going to do the work. I'm going to show up and I'm going to be present. But, it's also really interesting because AI, so something that we, in some of the sessions that I took that, my head is still wrapping around is just how one thing that my head is really still wrapping around that we talked about in sessions is just how the use of AI is going to allow people to be more present in their lives. And I talked to somebody that is, they're really promoting a 3 or a 4 day work week here in the UK. It's really a big thing that they're hoping that AI can allow them to do that. And they're also talking about like a universal income, which I'm still kind of, grappling with and really wrapping my head around how I feel about that, honestly. But it's interesting because I came here because I felt called to be here and my life is completely different. And there is a part of me, I know that my heritage and my roots are in this part of the world. And if you've ever done that, I know I'm totally going to butcher this, but it's like astrotopography. It's essentially like using your date of birth, time of birth, place of birth, and there's these latitude and longitude lines across the world map, and it tells you based on your natal birth chart, if you will, in astrology, where the places that you should live and where you shouldn't. And every time I've ever done that, this part of the country is always very lit up for me, which has always been interesting to me because in my mind, I'm just kind of like, the weather is not great here. It's actually a little cold for me here. And apparently last week it was really hot for here. And it's been raining on and off, which doesn't necessarily bother me, but it's definitely been cloud cover the entire 3 days that I've been here so far. Everyone is genuinely kind and nice, and all of that has been wonderful. But it's just interesting because there is something pulling me here, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know what will happen with that. But in talking about AI, and AI was part of the reason why I came here in the first place, is to really study that. And And I guess it was maybe the undercover reason why I was coming here, but I'm also really looking forward to the things that unfold while I'm here. And I don't know what that's going to be yet. And I've just really learned, years ago, and this is where I've done just so much work. I had to be in control of everything. And I don't know if you can relate. Maybe you can relate. I needed to know, I wanted to feel safe. And every woman that I know wants to feel safe in their own way, however you contextualize that. And for me, feeling safe was being in control, knowing where the exits were, so to speak, just knowing what the agenda was, where we were going, who was going to be there, how we get out, all of these things. And now I've reached a point in my journey where those things still matter to me. I'm not going to say that they don't matter, but they don't matter as much because I've learned that, again, I can count on myself. Like, I know that I'm not going to abandon myself anymore. I used to abandon myself all the time. I abandoned myself in my marriage, God, always, until the end, honestly. Part of it was what our society and my family told me we were supposed to do as girls and women is you put others before yourself. Like, their needs are more important than yours. And I don't believe that anymore. I believe everybody's needs are equally important. And I remember one time when I had my first director role and I had 63 direct reports across the United States. It was a really big job. And I remember feeling like, I when I was early career, my ex-husband was very into Amway. So a lot of my business education actually came from Amway. If you don't know what Amway is, look it up. It's been around forever. It's a multi-level marketing company and just did so many things with that. And there's a part of me that's grateful for that because I learned a lot. But one of the things that they really kind of taught over and over is edify people that are, that you aspire to be like. Edify people who make more money than you, who have authority over you, all those sorts of things. So again, it just kind of goes into this, this dogma of religion and just how it's all about control. And I know this is like a really big topic and I'm just kind of making it small right now, but it's interesting to me because that is kind of the perspective that I had. So when it came to other people like my husband or my, my boss, my VP, my CEO, COO, I just always felt like edify those people. And I'm not saying don't edify them because they should be edified to a certain level, but not to the point where you abandon yourself. And I remember I would always work my schedule around my VP's schedule because her schedule was more important than mine. She had bigger things to do than I did. And then someone told me, and I don't remember who, and maybe it was a podcast or a book or something that I listened to, but it changed my perspective because the line was, just because they have a different education, experience, and income level than you do does not mean that they are more valuable than you, that their time is more valuable than yours. Let that sit with you for just a minute because my time, my effort, my contribution is just as important as hers or theirs. And so I think about, like, it really did change my perspective because even though I'm here and sitting in session with seasoned actors and musicians and people in production and making movies and music and tech moguls and all that sort of thing, like, they're human, just like me, just like you. Like, they started somewhere. And if we're going to constantly abandon ourselves because we think that someone has more value than we do, then we're literally giving our power away. And I did that so many times. I just gave my power away because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. I didn't realize that it was acceptable and it was okay to have my own power and to have my own thoughts and to disagree with what was being said or how things were being done. And what I've learned as a business leader now and, really rubbing shoulders with a lot of these people in a much different way than I ever did before is they're just people and they need some of those challenges. They don't need people to just lay down for them. They need that challenge. They need to be reminded that they are, human and that they're not superior. And not everybody. I mean, that is like a very general statement, but I mean, I need that. I need people. I mean, that's why I love working, when I was in-house in my team, and I think I've spoke about this person who is now a friend of mine, and he would constantly challenge me. He's the age of my daughter, and he would constantly challenge me, and I would say, we're going to go ahead and do this, and this is why. And he would be like, no, I don't agree with that. I'm not comfortable with that. And I loved it because he was sharing a different perspective, and it's so important to share that different perspective. And I think about relationships and how my marriage would have been so different if I was married to somebody that was open to me disagreeing with the way that they thought and the way that they perceived things. But that was not who I was then, and it is who I am now. So I will say, the person that I'm with is going to have to be okay with that, because as much as possible, I don't want to abandon myself anymore. And I'm not saying that I won't, because I'm human and we all make mistakes, but I know better. And so you do better when you know better. And I mean, I think that's a challenge that I will face in the future. But again, I'm confident in who I am. I'm going to continue to bet on myself, because whether it's flying literally across the world, by yourself to go to a conference you've never been to in a city you've never been to, or starting a new relationship or a new job, like there's just so many things that we have to be brave, and we have to give ourselves permission to fail, first of all, because failing is not the end of the world. Failing is learning. And I mean, my marriage failed. I've failed in business. I failed in relationships. I failed in parenting. And all of those things, while they were hard and they didn't just impact me, I can't tell you how many times as I've gone through my own healing journey where I have learned things and realized, oh God, like that was not good. That was really bad. And I've taken responsibility for it, because I think that's the right thing to do. I can't fix it. I can't change the kind of parent that I was to my children, who are now adults raising, their own families. I can't change who I was in my marriage, because I wasn't perfect. And, I feel like when we grow and we realize the things, and there's a difference. And, I was talking to a friend before I left, and she's in the process of her divorce. And I feel like there's this whole process, and I could talk about this probably for a long time. But when you're in an abusive type of relationship, you really do start thinking you're crazy, because you start thinking like, was that me? Like, did I do that? Was that like, yeah, you just kind of like, where's that coming from? And she was definitely in a relationship with somebody who was emotionally abusive to her, for sure. And she tried and tried and tried, because she didn't want to be divorced. And, and she talked to me, and we had these great conversations, and I just reminded her that, listen, you gave him opportunity. You didn't just walk away. Like, you gave him opportunity to see if he was willing to step up or even try. And if the other person isn't willing to try, then there's nothing left to do. You cannot be in a boxing ring by yourself, because you're just there by yourself. And that's where I was in my marriage. I fought like hell to keep it, but there came a point in time where I realized I'm the only one fighting for this. And if you're the only one fighting for anything, whether it's your relationship, your kids, maybe not your kids, but your job or whatever it may be, if you're the only one fighting for it, maybe that is your sign to just take a pause and really ask yourself, why am I fighting for this? Why am I fighting for this? Am I the only one fighting for this? And where do I think this is going to lead me? Everyone always applauds the woman who books the trip, does the thing. But no one ever really asks her what it cost. because yes, I can book trips and yes, I can do these things, but what did it cost me? And I just keep reminding myself that I deserve to be here. And I have no idea where this trip is going to lead or what I'm going to get out of it. I can remember when I went to Julia Child's house in Provence, France, back in 2016, and my marriage was falling apart at that point. In fact, while I was at that trip, my ex-husband sent me a picture of him and another woman. I'll never forget that one. And, you know, the cost is, it's really hard to say what the cost is, but the cost is believing in myself. The cost is trusting that there's something here for me, even when on paper it doesn't make sense. I don't have a second income. You know, I'll be honest, like it's scary spending money on yourself. It's scary when you don't have a second income because there is this tendency to just live in fear of like, am I going to have enough? Because the economy is shit. And, you know, the world is a scary place right now. And especially for a single woman. And then when I'm here and I'm listening to these things about universal income and, you know, the 4-day work week, and there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. But then there's the other part of me that's like, oh my God, how am I going to live? Like, am I going to be able to live by myself? Like, if this happens, and there is this panic, there's this legitimate panic that happens. And, you know, I'll be honest, when I got on the plane in San Diego, there was definitely a panic. For a moment, I had to breathe. I had to breathe because there was a part of me that was just like, what do you think you're doing? Why? What the hell? Like, seriously, Heather, like, why do you think you can do this? Like, what are you trying to prove? And I don't really know if I'm trying to prove anything as much as I feel this thing that I can't even articulate yet. I know I'm supposed to be here. I have no idea why. And if I'm being honest, you know, my best friend is coming here, and I can remember, I guess it was July. No, it wasn't July. It was May. So it was around this time of year of 2024, maybe 2023. And I went to DC. I flew to DC to help my best friend move from DC back to Indiana. And I remember I got the time messed up as far as like what time I was going to be arriving. And I remember she was like, oh, well, I'm actually in DC. Just take an Uber and meet me for dinner because I'm having dinner with a friend. And I get there, I've got, you know, my dog Maggie and my suitcases, and it's a long flight. So I'm kind of exhausted. And I get to this restaurant, and you know, before there's any even hi or, oh my God, so good to see you, it was, you know, oh my God, look, because she was engaged. And I had no idea. I had just found out that she was, you know, that a friendship had turned into something more romantic. And don't get me wrong, I'm very, very happy for her. But it was an adjustment because we went through our divorces together. And then, you know, a week later, maybe not even a week later, I'm in Indiana, and she's spending all her time at his place. I'm at her place by myself, which I didn't anticipate. And then I find out that another one of my really good friends is also engaged. And so it was really hard. It was a human moment. It was not pretty. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was not pretty at all. It was hard. It was hard to see all these people moving forward and just really feeling like, what is wrong with me? Like, why isn't this happening for me? Because it's the thing like I want so badly. But in hindsight, while I still do want that, I still do want to have a healthy, balanced, loving relationship, I'm glad it didn't happen for me then, because I still had a lot to learn. I mean, going through a health crisis by yourself will change everything. I just never thought that would happen, and it was really hard. Just all of the planning that had to go into that, and preparing for my recovery and knowing that I wasn't going to be able to take my dog for a walk or take the trash out or purchase groceries. Like, I mean, and I'm grateful that we live in a world now where so much of that can be delivered. But, I had to really rely on other people, and asking for help. Oh my God, that just feels really, really hard. Asking for help is so uncomfortable because it's almost an admission that you're human, which for whatever reason I've struggled with. And I don't know if you struggle with that, but we are human and we all need help and we all make mistakes at sometimes and we all feel imposter syndrome at times. And we all need permission to just live our life. And it sounds really simple. And honestly, it is really simple, but we just complicate it. We make it really hard. And I think just going through all of these things and being here, I really have no idea what's going to unfold. I just feel things stirring. And maybe being here is just meant for that, to just stir up new creative ideas. And I'm super grateful for the business that I have. I love the clients that I work with, but I know there's more that I'm supposed to be doing, and it's not fully clear yet. So I don't know what it's going to look like, and maybe it won't look like anything, and maybe it will look completely different. But what I can say is, in my first business, one of the lines that I always had was, I would end every newsletter with "buckle up and enjoy the ride." And that's kind of where I feel like I am. And in the past, the buckle up meant a negative thing. Like, this is going to be hard. This is going to be challenging. It's going to be uncomfortable. And discomfort is not always pleasant, but it's part of life. But this time I feel like it's much lighter. It's much more positive. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Getting on that plane in San Diego, which that in itself was a whole new journey and experience for me, because I drove myself to the airport and parked my car for 10 days. And well, it's actually longer than 10 days. It's probably more like 13 days. 14 days. Yeah, it's 14 days. And there's a part of me when I got out of my car that just reminded me of standing at my neighbor's door, that red door with that gold or brushed, I can't think of bronze, whatever, doorknob. And, locking my car and taking my suitcase and finding the shuttle to the right terminal. And even on the stateside, it was very, very different. And was a reminder to just take a deep breath. And I did have a panic attack. I mean, it was mild, a panic attack, but I just kind of feel like we all get imposter syndrome. We all have that moment of panic. And I think just like when I stood at my neighbor's house going to that party for the very first time, I could have easily turned around and just walked back home. I mean, it literally was like across the sidewalk. And I have a lot of money invested in this trip for the conference and, the hotel and just all of that. But I'm here because I know that I'm going to learn something, and something about me, and maybe you're like this too, is I just need a little time to process. So I'm trying to be present in the moment, and then there will be some reflective time. So I can tell you that I know that a concrete jungle is a great place to visit, but not a great place for me to be long term. The other day after I had dinner, and I had this amazing Italian dinner, it was interesting because one, they sat me in the corner, which I thought was really interesting. And I'm not sure why. There were like these single tables, so it's just table for two. And I just kind of was like, if you think about where they're placed in a restaurant, it's just interesting. So next time you go into a restaurant, look at that, where they place those tables. And I was just kind of like sitting there, and just on one hand, I was really proud of myself for doing that, because going out to a nice dinner by yourself in a foreign city, that takes freaking guts. And I'm proud of myself for doing that. And I had a lovely dinner. I really enjoyed my dinner. And everyone was very nice to me there. And after dinner, I just really wanted to go for a walk. I was tired. I'm still very jet lagged, but at the same time, I went to just like sit because I just wanted to feel the air on my skin, and it was really windy and it hadn't rained yet. And I sat on this concrete ledge, if you will, under a tree that was surrounded by rocks, so no greenery. And I just was looking at the street art in the alley, and there was a part of me that wanted to explore, and there was a part of me that just wanted to just take a deep breath. And I did sit there for a couple minutes and felt the air and just really, really, really was imagining being like in nature. And I mean, I guess in some ways I was in nature, but just the greenery. And I am looking forward to the end of this week when I go to Edinburgh, Scotland, because I feel like that's going to be such a different sense of scenery for me. And yeah, so who knows what the day will bring me. I'm looking forward to learning in the sessions today. I'm glad that I'm up. I'm still very tired. Like I said, I've been up for a long time already. And I'm going to do my best. And I think at the end of the day, that's all we can do. We do our best. And that is enough. And if anybody tells you that that's not enough, then they need to go look in a mirror, quite honestly, because we can only give what's available to us. And the more we take care of ourselves, which is why I gave myself the day yesterday in bed. And there was a part of me that felt guilty about it. And I was wrestling with that because I very much want to be out in the city. And when I went to get water, the hotel has a water fountain outside my door, and I was looking outside, and there's like the city is just so alive and so buzzing, and there was a part of me that just wanted to be out there and be part of it. But the bigger part of me wanted to be back in bed because I just want to feel good for the rest of this trip. And I was tired, and my allergies are acting up here a little bit, and I'm super stimulated. And I'm like, you know what? I just have to there's things I wanted to do yesterday and see, and then rather than beat myself up for it, I just gave myself permission to just be in the hotel in London by myself and give myself a day of rest. And I'm not sad that I did that for myself, because now today I can go out and go into the city and enjoy whatever comes my way.